All right. Well,
Nice.
certainly I like to take this opportunity to thank you, Raymond, for taking your time out of your day to to help
Of course.
further this idea, and everybody else that's gonna hear this material in the future. I love you dearly. I certainly love you with all my heart and being and soul. And there's been many videos I've made and different kinds of teachings and talkings that I've had. And as I remember more of who I actually am, I'm remembering more of different portions of myself. I'm remembering more of what I have to offer, what I already contain. And upon this remembrance, I've been stumbling across the avenue of channeling. And most of the material I've ever heard that had some great validity had inadvertently been part of the channeling community. I've had several teachers amongst, Bashar and Bashar.org, Cryon and Cryon.com, others. I mean, I could really sit here and just list them all. But the purpose isn't to single out any specific one. I feel it's more or less it's been as one of the teachers would say, Cryon. It's an amalgamation. It's a blending and a merging and a melding of all kinds of different ideas, that I've adopted into my own reality. And I've made a few videos on channeling. I've allowed myself to, quiet my brain and in a sense tap in, kind of like plugging a cord into a computer per se to get the information out of it. And, it really it's so loving. I mean, when you do something of this nature, when you're truly coming from your heart, no place else. There's no filter of belief that you try to create that it has to be a certain way. And of course, there's been a lot of taboo nature around this topic, based on the fact of witchcraft and black magic and demons and taking over the bodies and all this jazz, as to not to devalue or to diminish those ideas, because that is an experience of reality. Don't misunderstand me when I say that you cannot experience that per se. But what I mean is like when you're true to yourself, when you're true to your heart, and you hold that like the eternal flame that you are, there's no room or place for that to even participate, because it can't get into a house with all the locked doors and windows. It's just the way it is. I mean, it's gonna find where it needs to go and see you later. So based off that thought alone, there's no need to create a barrier, a kind of shield. There's no shields needed. There's no kind of defenses that one needs to get in touch with an idea of this sort. I feel that deep in your heart that all the answers do resonate, or they do stem essentially from that location, because that location is tied to all other locations. So as long as you're in your heart, you're in your sacred space of the beautiful soul of a part of another bigger piece of a whole, you get into that beautiful place of who you are. That's all the shielding you really need, if you want to call it that. So based off this analogy alone, you're going to notice there's going to be no kind of calling on archangels or calling on sacred spirits to lock arms with me and walk down this hallway of channeling, or the hallway of me. Essentially, so far from all the information I've received, have been a kinetical approach to band me more together, to bring more aspects of the compartmentalization of my preteens, of my adolescence, of my prepubescence, all of it together, coalescing into this idea. Now, a lot of people think that channeling may consist of vocalization or some kind of trance-like state, and in a sense, that is true, of course, obviously. Certainly get in the trance-like state and you can ceremonially, in a ritualistic way sometimes can pull out information. Or even just through, just bring yourself into a trance. And I've heard recently, and I certainly knew this information intrinsically through me for this entire time, but I've had a remembrance of what induces trance-like state. And that's from my dear teacher, Bashar, from bashar.org. And that is the gamma state. There's frequencies, the beta state, the theta state, the gamma state, different states of frequency, brain wave activity in your brain. And it's been documented that the channeling state is really conducive of when the brain is in the gamma-like state. So that, there's some chemical activities and electrical activities that's happening in the brain. But with, channeling happens on so many bases. The guy at the bar that's running everybody off the pool table is channeling a pool artist at heart. He's in a channeling state. When you see, an individual who is an amazing dirt bike rider and it does something that he extremely is passionate about, doesn't know the passage of time, doesn't know the value of anything other than his passion, he's in the gamma state. And I would just take this opportunity to tell people to think to yourself just for a moment, of one time in your life that was completely, utterly impactful, powerful. Time flew by as you were standing still. Because when you remember that moment, you were channeling. Some people, they want to attach other words and definitions and meanings to it, but essentially you're channeling that information from more of yourself purely. It's not that, maybe you're tapping into a Tesla archetypal idea. You're tapping into something else archetypally, and all an archetype is a collective representation of the idea. So therefore, you're just tapping into more of the idea essentially through yourself. It's just a reflection of the other person's idea. So, it's all just you in a sense. Now, there can be other descriptions and definitions and ideas of how entities, flat out real entities pass through you. And in a sense, even then, it's just your version of them. So the people that are on the planet that channel this, channel that, channel this, channel that, they're channeling themselves from a degree that their perception of what that other person is. Because you can't, there's so much, there's not enough space in the human body to put anything in there. There's nowhere to put it. It ain't like you can open up your pocket and start stuffing an entity or energy in your pocket. We're made with what exactly we need. We don't need anything else. We don't need other energies from other entities. It's exciting. It's informing, but it's not a necessity. We are a complete kit personally, all of us together or individually. Doesn't matter. So just remember that we are all powerful. And to channel isn't to necessarily do anything wrong, bad, or indifferent. It's to merely do what you always do, but just be the conscious that you're doing it. And now that I've gotten in touch with this idea, it really feels as if, I've been connecting to more of myself in some odd shape, form, or fashion. And today's show in front of you is a pilot idea that me and Raymond had been talking about that correlates with the fact of, channeling, conscious channeling, verbal channeling, channeling in a manner that I haven't done before. I've done just straight out, flat out message channeling is what I'll consider it, because there was no back and forth. There was no Q&A. There was no actual drawing. It's more or less a divulging instead of a polling, if you will. So today is going to be along the lines of a Q&A. There's no time frame to it. There's no number to it. There's nothing. And I've actually even purposely done it this way, as to not to create a barrier or a bond of when it goes and when it doesn't go. Because I'll be the first person to tell you that I am still learning and remembering this idea. So therefore, the energies ebb and flow. They ebb and flow. I haven't completely solidified the information exactly to the manner that the connection stays constant. And so me and Raymond were communicating on the idea of creating a Q&A about this topic. And I believe that would create the unstagnant, shall I say. It stirs the pot. It gives the opportunity for more of, me to come out. So essentially, this is exciting. This is very exciting for me because, I've only done it to a camera. I haven't done it for another individual on the planet. And for this to happen, it removes my own mental barrier and psyche and all my own pre-recollections and cursors and everything. Removes me out of my way. Because in a sense, in order to get some of the information that I divulged upon the camera, based on my YouTube channel, was essentially, the psyche portion of my brain asking the questions while I was reserved in a different location, if that makes any sense. And now I can completely get in the passenger seat altogether instead of having one hand on the wheel. And I'm excited. I'm certainly excited. So I don't know what's about to be asked. I don't know what's about to be said, other than the fact that we've created this space to explore and transform. So thank you, Ray. I mean, definitely, this is a beautiful moment.
Thank you, Scott. I mean, that was an awesome introduction. I don't even know. It feels like we're on doing a radio show right now. Thank you for listening to Conscious Contact Radio. Scott Mendoza on channeling. But that was awesome, dude. That was beautiful. In channeling, like you said, it's really about following your excitement, following your passion, following your heart, and just doing all those things and not caring about anything else. Nothing else that's going on around you. It's all about going with the heart, going with the flow, and being in that gamma state, like you're saying. Which is really kind of a natural thing if you can just follow your excitement and just do what you love to do. Kind of like doing this session right now. We conspired together, and we're following that excitement, and we came up with this idea. Of course, we have breadcrumbs that led us to this, of course, and things that kind of lead us into who we are. And it's beautiful when you start picking those breadcrumbs up and you see all the synchronicity in life, and you meet all the people that are really connected to you. Like, for example, me and Scott, we've never physically met each other, but there's such a strong connection. We feel like we're brothers. We feel like we're part of the same soul family, possibly part of the same oversoul. Who knows how far it goes, but this stuff is very exciting, and really that's what it's all about. Just being who you are, doing what you do, doing what you love to do, and you don't have to put up this facade, or you don't have to act a certain way to impress other people or anything like that. Just do whatever it is you love to do, and it's as simple as that, I think. So I can't go into as much detail as Scott did. That was a beautiful introduction, but I'm very honored to be Scott's friend as well, and to be a part of his life, and everything that's kind of conspiring and going on, and this process, this journey that we're on is very beautiful, very exciting, and I feel like it's definitely gonna go really far and take us to many beautiful places. So I thank you for that, Scott, and I appreciate the connection. So
absolutely, thank you. Like I said, it's this is a beginning of us picking up the breadcrumbs that have been laid, in the past, that we're now being able to perceive, like, oh yes, of course, it's obvious, yes, and yes, and yes, and this is me, this is me, this is me, this tastes good, and it's that simple. It really is. The recollection of who you are is as simple as putting a sock on that feels good. I mean, that's as simple as it gets. And so what I'd like to do next, to kind of what I do within my videos, is I resonate a singing bowl. And the singing bowl that I resonate is actually on the G note of the chromatic scale. And it truly is connected to the throat chakra. And when it's connected to the throat chakra, inadvertently, that shall amplify the idea of communication on many and multitudes of levels, whether that's within, the communication between you and your dog, whether that's with you and your wife, you and the planet, it doesn't matter. Entities, I don't care what it is. You and, the communication of shoveling the snow. It's communication. And whatever way that works for you and you communicate, that's the way it's going to amplify. So I'm going to resonate for a minute or two to kind of get the energies, solidified. It's a good permission slip, if you will, that allows me to, get to where I need to be. So me do that now. Adjust the camera. I always say, when I hear this, it feels like I go home. Fantastic. Now that we had essentially, diffused and aligned and circulated what's already in circumference of your being, next I will essentially take me a few moments. I'm gonna have some breathing, and Raymond, you'll know when it's time to ask your questions.
Perfect.
So,
perfect.
Once again, before I go into this, sometimes I get disoriented once I come out of it. So bear with me a moment, and I love you all. Greetings.
Hello.
Greetings, greetings, greetings. As we are
Hello.
pleased to greet you in this manner.
Hello. Thank you for this connection. Who am I speaking with?
The speaker is in a location that one could say is with us. For we are those that shall remain nameless to create no barriers for who or what.
Okay. And can you tell me where you are from?
The location, the locale frequencies that coexist. It is now the moment, essentially, is the ones of points and lines. One could say it's the Merkaba energy that is fractalized into, one could say, sacred geometry in the speaker's creation upon existence. For it is a balance, a base, if you will, to crystallize all the points and coalesces of energy that upwell from each point and domain of the frequencies. So therefore, you could say it is a point and a line co-created in a way that was, in a sense, look like triangles upon triangles upon triangles upon triangles, to the point that you can't even tell it's a triangle even if you looked closely, because the lines are outlined by the lines. And until you perceive and resonate with the line, there is no perception available.
So this is another dimension?
Yes. One could say that to say that the dimension would be essentially in the human domain. Therefore, the words for separation that we use is essentially one of feeling. Therefore, it can be perceived as a dimension, but not necessarily, because it contains within the speaker's body. It is not within the etheric out there, for the speaker has it all within. It is in the cellular structure of the body.
Interesting. Okay. Well, again, thank you for the connection, and I appreciate that information there. Are there any messages that you would like to share before I start asking questions?
The message if there was one, would be this. For the moment you realize that simply within a line creates and nurtures all points of existence. So to delineate a point from another point essentially is segmenting and separating something that could create much more of a boost, much more of a support of the same idea. So therefore recognize what essentially is what is, for the recognition creates the power within instead of the exterior giving. So therefore, if you are no longer interested in giving per se, you should recognize that all is created and contained within the same thought. So separation only serves to separate. So I say to you that the separation is split, if you will, for the moment. The moment is needed. The moment is needed. For the recognition of the understanding that the point is created and it contained within the line shall give you the credence and the understanding that you have everything that you need. There is nothing outside of you that shall amplify things any further than what they are. So everything that you perceive, everything that you have, is just you. This is the message, for this message creates a linking of other messages once they think upon this thought.
Great. Thank you so much for that. I'm getting really strong feelings that you have connections or tied to draconian or reptilian races. Can you confirm or deny that?
Yes. For the reptilian and the draconian, as you say, for certain is an aspect, a fork of the tongue, if you will, that is imparted upon my physicality and my spirituality across all planes of existence. Therefore, the very first divergence of the entity of the speaker before you essentially was simultaneously in what you would perceive the draconian empire. Therefore, the moment he was initiated upon the draconian empire, he tapped and touched and dipped and dipped and bobbed and weaved himself into other perceptions, other Orion constellations, other perspectives. But the dominant domain, if you will, is essentially of the draconian.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so I'd like to ask you, can you tell me kind of what consciousness is and why it's so important?
Yes, yes. For consciousness is the blood of creation itself. Consciousness is a connecting divider. In the same way that water is wet, you cannot have the connectivity without the witness. Therefore, you cannot have the connectivity amongst all creation without the consciousness. For then the consciousness is the mode and the vehicle and the transportation device that creates all of the frequencies to coalesce and to vibrate into harmony, and shall create doorways and shall create other experiences of existence. And the consciousness was the first form of creation upon the understanding of the one not having awareness. For to have awareness was to have consciousness. Therefore, the consciousness was upwelled out of the one and split into a multitude and just melded into the liquid, into the solidification across all dimensions, as you say, in your reality. It creates a connecting web. For with no consciousness, there's no transformation. With no transformation, there's no way for the one to create experience upon itself. For there would be no need, no reason to create experience with no consciousness to have experience against. So therefore, it understood that the consciousness was intrinsic, was a necessity to create the proclivity of everything else.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Okay, so my next question is, I have, within the past few weeks in my linear time, have had a strong connection to the blue avians, or just the bird species in general. Is there any information you can tell me about that?
Yes. Within the DNA structure of what you would consider the avian explorative idea, the avian society, the blue ones, as they say in ancient times, is essentially you tapping into the shamanism that had been created and made up and bowled up for. There was one could say ambassador. It was an ambassador in a sense on a Atlantean times. Therefore, use ambassadoring the experience of Atlantean civilization and the integration of the avian experience, which created an avian tectonic. And the avian tectonic is really a recollection for you to understand of other experiences and extensions into that world.
That's awesome. Thank you for that.
Yes.
My next question would be, can you tell me or explain what is happening to me when I wake up all of a sudden at, between 3 or 4 a.m. in the morning, and I have the urge or this desire to all of a sudden, out of my sleep, I go meditate, or I go listen to channeled entities. Can you tell me why I'm doing this, or what's going on? Why I'm experiencing this in my reality?
Yes. For one consideration that I shall warrant you to consider is within the time frame and the linear space and time that you speak. At the time frame of 3 to 4 a.m. is the spiritual thumb, if you will, into this dimension. Therefore, in that experience you call sleep, upon the experience of sleep, it dictates a certain releasing of properties in a substance form that shall allow the slipping through the barriers a little bit more each time. Therefore, what the experience is essentially is you opening the doorway, tapping into the ideas essentially that is right there in front of you all day, as you say, every day of your life, even before you came out of the womb. During gestation periods, you had the same. It's just now, upon all the experiences that have been stacked and correlated in an aligning fashion that creates a connector of sorts. It creates a silhouette of conduit force. Therefore, there is no thought, there is no dream, there is no experience in that moment to cut, to sever the connections. Therefore, when you arise and awake, as you say in that moment of 3 to 4 a.m., essentially you are doing what you should be doing from the basis that is exactly who you are, for the connection is merely a recognition.
That's awesome. So, to follow up with that question, should I just continue to allow that happen, or should I try to integrate that into my natural waking hours from, 8 a.m. all the way till I go to sleep at night? Should I just allow what's happening to happen, or should I try to be in that state more while I'm awake during the daytime?
The moment, the moment, the moment. It has been stated to us that in this moment you speak, that one shall have an amplification and more of a deeper connection, the more you wouldn't say push the envelope. What I would say is to have the thought itself was to essentially have the entire thing. So therefore, continue to the fact, even to the fact that you get tired, to the fact that it makes your arm hurt. Right as much as possible. For some reason, the energetical frequency is screaming the idea of the transcribing of the thought.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. Okay, so my next question is, can you go into a little bit to help me understand the connection that me and the channel have on a deeper level?
The speaker in front of you, the speaker on the other side, that we communicate with essentially is the same, one and the same spirit, the same connective soul. Essentially, one could say they have an arm. One could say that the speaker and the speaker are a finger and a finger of the arm of the same body, if you will. Each finger may have slightly bit dexterity than the other, but essentially is from the same blood, the same DNA, the same genetical mainframe mindset. So essentially, it's all part of the same body. Therefore, you could say it is the same oversoul. As you say, there have been connections upon the Orion constellation that really, really speak out. Therefore, one could say it was a general and a general. And as you say, the Black League, as we've been told. So therefore, the connections of bringing togetherness is truly connecting to more of the Orion energy that exists within this thought. But therefore, that is only a portion, a piece, a fragment of a bigger crystal, a crystal of creation that is.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. So my next question would be, what is the best way I can achieve inner peace?
The idea of the inner peace, as you say, is a fraction of the entire idea. Therefore, the inner peace is a peace, only the peace, for which is why it's called the inner peace instead of the inner whole. So therefore, I may remind you that the peace you are is infinite. It is created, specifically designed energetically the way it is. For therefore, the whole connection is to be desired, is opposed to the inner peace. The inner peace is a fragment that you've already accepted and correlated and connected. I would implore you take the inner peace, the outer peace, and you sew, as you say, them together.
That's great. Thank you. Okay, I only have two more questions.
Yes.
The second to last question is, it has been said that the Yael are the first hybrid civilization to contact us on a mass scale on Earth. Can you shed any light on the first extraterrestrials to contact us that are not hybrid on a mass scale?
Yes. The Yaels that you speak is the first hybrid civilization. They shall break the present barrier with the open society. This is true on this level. The idea of the interdimensionality, the other domain of extraterrestrial, as you say, the first contact of such idea has already been created, has already happened. One could say it was in 2004. One could say it was in 2000. But the idea is essentially the first open contactable civilizations is essentially from another shiftable dimension within the planet. In a sense, it is a bubble of energy. It is not a physicalized gray being as all would think. Essentially, it is a ball of light. It is a consciousness, as you say, because the consciousness, as you say, creates the base and the bringing of the energies further forth. So therefore, you may refer to these beings as the plasma beings that have been and created a reality amongst the region of South America, Bolivia, in your speaking. Therefore, these entities, these plasmic organicable energies, are essentially the earth energy split into a consciousness that shall bring proclivity to the rest of the civilization, as to be scribes in the sky, to be reflections for others, to stimulate other ideas within each and every one, to create the capacitor, one could say, the receptor, one could say, of such ideas as the Yael in times to come.
Great, that's awesome. Thank you for that. Okay, and my last question is, are there any messages for me personally, other than what we've already discussed?
Yes. The idea that you have been investigating, the idea of the mirror tablets, shall unlock secrets of your past, if you say, of your present, if you say, of your psyche, if you say. It'll bring more credence, it'll bring more power to the information that it already exists. Therefore, it'll open up doorways to create connections to other simultaneous coexistences that you have in other dimensional tracks of existence. So therefore, the study, investigate as much of the emerald tablets as possible. Therefore, to ingest this idea shall ring true to one's natural self. This is all.
Great, thank you so much. I appreciate all the information you have just given, and appreciate you coming through the channel and with your wisdom and knowledge.
Thank you for the channel has pushed the speaker to the point of integration, to the point that next interaction shall be more interactive, shall have more pathways and more synapses open within the brain. So therefore, we as an entity, as a civilization within the cellular structure of the speaker, say we thank you for this interaction. For therefore, they look forward to the now interaction that shall help in the now. We say greetings.